session is going to be a very interesting panel on real-time cross-border payment, need for faster payment services and lower transaction fees to enable new growth opportunities. This session will be moderated by Ms. Geetika, Raheja, Director, Payments and Transformation, PwC India, and as she will be joined on our panel by Mr. Dharmesh Desai, EVP and Head NRI Business and Global Remittances, IndusInd Bank. I'd also like to extend a very warm welcome to Gauri Prosad Sarma, Chief General Manager, Punjab National Bank. May I also present to you Nishchal Adhikari, Director, Payment System Department, Nepal Rastra Bank. A very warm welcome to Mr. Stephen Weng Leong, Chief Digital and Global Banking Strategist and Construction Bank, all the way from Malaysia, joining us right here. May I now hand over to Ms. Raheja and let us look forward to those questions from our audience.
Hi everyone, good afternoon. It's great to be here to discuss this exciting times around cross-border payments and how those are evolving. In terms of the panel today, we have a great panel and a great set of esteemed people with a lot of experience in this space. From just kicking off the discussion in terms of the way this space is evolving, we've seen quite a few innovations happening. We've seen a lot of fintechs doing a lot of work in terms of blockchain based payments. The most recent innovation and the most recent initiative that has started across the globe is the integration of the faster payment systems of different countries. We've seen India integrate with Singapore in this regard, Singapore integrating with Bangkok and Thailand. So let's look at what our panelists feel in terms of these real-time integrations, and is that the future of faster payments? So just to get opening remarks, Stephen, why don't you give us your perspective in terms of where this industry is heading, and is faster payment integrations the way to go ahead?
Thank you, Geetika. Yeah. Yes, it is. In fact, you can see that, over in this region, especially in Southeast Asia, you can see the excitement in terms of instant payment, and also in terms of how the regulators are also pushing, all right, or encouraging the integration of payments, cross border and so on. All right. One very good example I would like to quote, in this part of the world where Malaysia and Thailand, probably just a few months back, they have launched the QR payment, all right, and this is what they call it, a significant breakthrough, all right, where both citizens of both nations, they can basically travel to each country and then and basically make payments through QR, and this is a big breakthrough because in order to do that, there are a lot of constraint in terms of having clear the regulators and so on. But it is a breakthrough. So I will see that one day it will be borderless. It will be instant. You can go to any parts of the world. And everything will be the payment landscape will be phenomenal.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Dharmesh, we meet again. Your views in terms of the integrations and transaction fees and other things. Dharmesh, I think you're on mute.
Thanks, Geetika. So in terms of cross-border payments, India has been one of the largest recipients in the world on cross-border. And given the size and scale of payments, has been a lot of innovation and also push from the regulators to ensure that the payment system is fast, is transparent, and is efficient. And I think a lot of innovations coming recently. I think in last 10-15 years, we have seen banks across multiple countries do individual tie-ups to facilitate this payment, which is working well in the India corridor. So banks tying up with fintechs, banks tying up with MPOs or exchange houses, and which was making the payments much faster in this part of the world compared to the rest of the world. What is interesting and what is changing now is that the payments infrastructure in different countries are now coming together. So like we heard the other speakers in Thailand and Bangkok, and there is Singapore and India. So now governments are looking at bilateral corridors where payments infrastructure have some similarity, and there is sizable amount of floats coming in, and how within that we can make payments faster, easier, simpler, and at par with the domestic payments. So I think those are the innovations which are changing the industry, and these are the exciting times for all of us here.
Sure. Nishchal, you want to give the international perspective on how you think these integrations might help?
Thank you, Geetika, and good afternoon, everybody. Look, it is very hard to predict the future of technology because the technologies today we are using may be obsolete in the future. So nobody knows how the technology landscape will change. But yes, as an integrated economy in the world, Nepal is also using all those technologies that's available in the market. For example, you have talked about faster payment. Yes, we have faster payment. Like in India, you have UPI. In Nepal, we have NPI. So our payment system is integrated with the international market. But some technologies are not adopted as pervasive as other countries. But I think the landscape is will change in the future, and we are looking forward to adopt all the best technologies that's available in the world. Thank you.
Thanks, Nishchal. Mr. Gauri Prasad, initial views around
Yeah,
our topic for the day.
thank you, Geetika. Good afternoon to all my fellow panelists. In fact, with my experience in banks for almost 36 years, I have seen the changes from manual days to today's automated payment systems. As far as cross-border payments are concerned, I am hopeful that probably a day will come like our domestic IMPS, of course, conforming to the regulatory guidelines of the sender country and the recipient country, and also taking into account that the forex exchange rates are also available on the go. A day will come that it will be like just our IMPS, that the person from a sender country will be able to send money to a recipient country elsewhere. The example, as my fellow panelist has already mentioned about that integration between Thailand and Bangkok, Thailand and Singapore, and also on the UPI front from India and Singapore. All those things are actually models that are available in front of us for the changes that are going to come in the days to come. And I'm very hopeful that the day is not far off when we will be able to do this kind of transactions to the satisfaction of the customers, increasing their customer experience and all that very quickly.
Sure. Thank you. So just getting a little deeper into these faster payment integrations. Dharmesh, any views around what these mean to the incumbents, and what are the kind of changes that you anticipate to make this a reality?
So Geetika, on the cross-border payments, I think given my experience and the interaction with customers, the need for a instant payment from a customer need perspective is not there, at least in 95% of payments. May it be trade payments or even individual payments, people are not expecting money to be there in 30 seconds because you are in a different country, different time zones. If somebody wants to send in US wants to send payments back to India, I mean, the time zone does not require him to send it right away. It is only 5% of payments or even less than that where the need is to have an instant payment. What is the need is transparency and predictability. So if I have to pay an X amount of money to my beneficiary in India, I need a confirmation that the money at today's rate or whatever rate I've been told today gets transferred and get transferred at that period which has been committed to me. And I think that is where a lot of banks, fintechs, the payment infrastructure entities are working. And all this obviously rightly said by Mr. Gauri Prasad also, we have to take care the compliance of both countries. So there is cross-border payments also involves a lot of anti-money laundering checks and all. So having to ensure that no wrong payments enter the system. How can I ensure the payments are transparent and predictable? And obviously, if you can offer it on a real time or a faster payments, customer is happy. But the need is a transparency and predictability of payments there. And I think that is where a lot of innovations are happening. That is where things are improving. I have seen from DDs and foreign currency checks, which has become obsolete now. Wire transfers still the people still use wires, but I think the volumes are coming down. There are a lot of better payment modes where people are able to track faster. And in terms of charges also, so wire also involves a lot of hidden charges which the customer does not know while he's making the payments. A lot of these digital payments are at least giving that predictability to the customer that this is the final amount which gets credited to the beneficiary. And I think that is where the entire infrastructure and the ecosystem is working towards it.
Sure, sure. So that means basically you're saying that with these integrations, while instant is one aspect of it, I think the transparency and giving the full view to the customer will be equally important. And I guess the when the actual implementation happens, these are some aspects that need to be taken care of. Great.
Absolutely.
Stephen, just to hear from you in terms of any other parallel innovations that come to mind, which are equally important, like these kind of faster payment integrations. Any other innovations that have really changed the face of the industry today?
I guess when you talk about innovations, before you talk about innovations, I guess there are 5 aspects or 5 perspectives that we should be zooming into. All right. First is the customer expectation. All right. Customer expectation has changed. All right. That they're no longer just one predictability or transparency. I guess what the customers are looking at today, especially the younger generations, the millennials, what they expect is instant. All right, instant means it's within the second or nanoseconds. All right, and this is where where innovations has to catch up. All right, and so that is the first perspective. All right, customers what do you call it? Demand has changed. All right, the expectation has changed. Second thing is the intermediary. The intermediary has become more and more at once. All right, intermediary it could be the banks, it could be the what they call that the merchants, or it could be also the DeFi. All right, the decentralized finance platform. All right, so these are things as it evolves. All right, it basically changed the entire landscape of instant payment. Okay, third perspective that we should be looking at is technology innovations is changing, is evolving daily. Every day you will see that technology is able to facilitate faster and faster and faster payment. All right, when I say faster means not only it's fast, but it's simpler. All right, it's effective, it's efficient, and that is why one day it's like at the blink of an eye the payment is is sent across. Okay, that is the third perspective. What is driving all this on the fourth perspective, all right, that I am basically looking at is globalization. All right, globalization basically transform the world of instant payment. All right, those days you talk about Western Union, it's like a mile ahead. But today, a lot of fintech players, they are already into this space. They are even far more advanced. All right, without legacy system, they are far more advanced in terms of instant payment. Okay. So the fifth perspective is, this is very exciting. All right, we are not talking about industry players. You are not talking about customers, but the regulators. The regulators are the ones that are basically becoming the catalyst. They are basically going out to the market and says that, all right, fantastic. Not only do we look at AML, not only do we look at KYC, but any other forms that can push for paperless, cashless, and instant. All right, so you really combine all these 5 perspective or components, customers, the intermediary, the technology innovation, the globalization, the regulators. The world is is an oyster. It's limitless. We even haven't talked about the blockchain. We haven't talked about the digital assets. We're just talking about moving cash. All right, so I'm very excited, so yeah.
Right.
Thank you,
Clearly,
Geetika. Thank you.
the excitement shows. So, Gauri, Mr. Prasad, in terms of your experience from an India perspective, being one of the largest recipients of inward remittances,
Right.
in terms of the developments that have really changed the face of the incoming payments into India, what's your perspective? What has really contributed to India becoming the largest recipient, apart from, of course, the migrant population? The systems that have worked together, the innovations that have happened.
Yeah, Geetika, it's a very important question. See, as you have rightly mentioned, the migrant population of India concentrated in certain pockets across the globe, and they are sending more than $80 billion last year. Well, the change, I think, the technology, the innovations that have come about in the recent past, even just to take an example, the day my son left for France to study, I first sent him the first remittance through SWIFT using the old traditional method. And nowadays, I use my mobile phone to send him the money. See, the vice versa is the same thing. If somebody is in US, he's sending money, or he or she is sending money, or from Singapore, as Stephen had mentioned, and Dharmesh also had mentioned about it, that one can send the money by using the latest link between the two countries. So that that thing, what we were talking about, that the combination between Pay Now and I think Prompt Pay in Thailand, that is the example. Then similarly from India, this UPI and the Pay Now combination. So this kind of changes are in the offing. More and more countries will be joined in this type of a system in the days to come very quickly. I'm also equally excited, like Mr. Stephen, that we can't wait for that to happen. My personal example I have given you, I can now feel the difference. Otherwise, I used to fill in all those required forms required by, because I am a CGM of operations of Punjab National Bank, one of the largest banks in India. So naturally, the change I can feel. So definitely this fintechs, the API integration, real-time FX rates, then technology will certainly be enhancing the visibility and transparency. Dharmesh was very rightly mentioning that I'm talking about that lesser percentage of people, the younger lot who actually want the service immediately. Business can definitely, there are certain regulations, one can definitely wait. When we make payment on behalf of some suppliers across the globe, then definitely the process will certainly take its own time, because documentation, etc., are very complex processes involved there. But I'm talking of the rest of the people who actually need the money quickly. Because, for instance, my son is studying in a business school in France, and he just texts me a message that, Papa, I need just this much of euros in my account. And I send it across. Of course, it is not instantaneous as of now, but it happens much more quickly than it used to be earlier, because I have seen banking in manual days in India. I myself used to write ledgers in hand. And today, what I am handling here, I was General Manager IT in United Bank of India before coming over to Punjab National Bank. I was the Chief General Manager Digital of this bank. Now I am handling operations. So I have the feeling, experience of all these areas, and which made me feel that, well, we are just on the verge of undertaking a huge leap forward as far as cross-border payments are concerned. Then you think of those days when, the businesses used to have accounts in different currencies in different geographies to make local payments. Now the concept of virtual accounts that will also help in increasing the global reach. E-wallets, they will also play an important role. All these technology innovations are going to bring about an epoch-making change in cross-border payments. We just can't wait.
Sure, sir. Nishchal, that leads me to my next point in terms of what do you think is really going to drive customer delight in this space, or business delight for that matter? or is this just a commodity, and is it just about moving money, or is there some aspect of customer delight involved in this?
Look, Geetika, I think this concept faster, okay, it is a relative concept for me as an individual, because for some 1 hour maybe a fast, for some a 10 second maybe a late, okay. So a person who is living in a remote part of Nepal, for him a 1 hour payment is a faster payment. For me, a person living in a Kathmandu, in a capital of Nepal, 10 second is a late, okay. So I think it depends on the way the person perceives a payment, okay. In big cities where there is lots of economic activity happens, it is the speed of the payment that maybe the you call a driving factor, or the best factor for a faster payment. But for a persons living in the rural areas, a simple payment method may be enough right now. So I think this payment, the term faster payment itself is a relative concept. And then secondly, I think the concept has gained ground not just because the payment aspect, but the investment aspect is also important, because the payment is attracting lots of technological investment and kind of software and hardware. So I think customers need payment. They need a ubiquitous payment method. They need a speed. They need security. They need efficiency, and they need a payment system that looks after their the protection of the funds. So I think this all combination makes a uh, customers uptake a faster payment.
Thanks, Nishchal. Dharmesh, just building on that point, do you think there is scope for innovation, or there's scope for like customer experience in this whole play? Do customers really pick one entity or one mode over the other? What are those factors determining why one would pick, say, either a bank or a fintech or an MTO? What do you think drives that decision for the
So
customer?
Geetika, see, one is Geetika is trust. I think cross-border payments still, while at some point of time pricing comes into play, but the first need from a customer's point of view is trust. Second is obviously what Stephen also rightly said. The customer needs are changing. So today we have customers who do not want to even remember the account details of the beneficiary. They are saying, I have a phone number and can I transfer it to the beneficiary? And things have changed. I think 10 years back, if anybody wants to make a cross-border payment, you will take 10 sentences and go to a bank, which will have the SWIFT code, the account number, the entire details. And people were willing to do that. I think things have changed. The customer experience is different now. They are used to a very different way of making payments domestically, which is their day in and day out need. And for international payments, they are now started comparing that. And we get a lot of requests saying, why can I not transfer to a mobile number? Why can I not transfer to a wallet? And I think those are the innovations, those are the changes which I think all the entire ecosystem, including banks, are now taking into account when we develop new things. And there are changes. So like all the technologies, the earlier ways and style of doing business gets obsolete, like checks today. So foreign currency checks today are still there, but it do not even contribute to 0.05% of our volumes today. And they used to be 20% only 2 decades back. And today there is a huge cost of even processing those checks. And that is what is happening. So a lot of the older ways to do business are getting obsolete for customers' need. But the underlying need is still the same. So he needs transparency, he needs predictability, he needs trust. And obviously, having said, if he's getting all that three in 3 platforms, then obviously it is pricing and speed. So if I can get all these 3 and I can get something faster and cheaper, then that is the mode of remittance. But these are the new things which I think everybody is working. How can I make life simpler for the customer and make cross-border payments akin to his domestic payments? So he does not have to undergo a different way to make cross-border payments.
Right. So Stephen, Dharmesh alluded to the point around speed, transparency, trust, driving customer decisions. as to which mode they would like to pick. But in the recent times, we've seen a lot of players coming in from the fintech side. Even MTOs are doing a lot of collaborations. Banks are doing collaborations. Do you think, with the market getting crowded and pricing being inversely proportional to the number of players, is that a deciding factor in customer decisions these days? And is everyone else at the same level in terms of the experience now?
Wow, that's a great question. All right. So I look at it again from a different lens. All right. Those days, people look at the banks, because they want to transact through the banks because of trust. All right. But today, all right, a lot of these new entrants, all right, the new fintech players, all right, they are all, a lot of them are also regulated by the respective countries' regulators. All right. And what I'm looking at today, what sometimes the banks will have their own legacy system, all right, for them to scale, all right, for them to basically change your core banking and all this. It's going to be a huge challenge. So the best way is to collaborate. You touch on the point, which is a very good point. The what do you call it? The landscape going forward for the banks, for the MTOs, for the fintechs, is to collaborate, is to partner together, all right, to ensure that the whole ecosystem it becomes very efficient, all right. So what the bank is lacking, all right, basically they can basically the fintech guys can provide a white label, or the banks can provide label. Where the banks is doing better in terms of strength, they can provide a white label, all right. So vice versa. So basically within the ecosystem, all right, who can perform better, who can offer a better service, a better product, that's where they will basically represent the rest of the sectors or the rest of the segment. So I look at it, they will be interchangeably, all right, how the payment landscape will be going forward. So to a customer, going forward as a customer, it doesn't matter. Today, even I myself, when I make when I make cross-border transfer or cross-border payment, or I don't go to a bank because the bank charges me the FX, the fees is higher. But I go to basically MTO, or I go to a new fintech players. Their fees is so low, their FX is the margin is so slim, and that is and the bank to compete in this space is they're not going to be able to compete. They might as well join up with the fintech, and says that why not I collaborate with you, and I open the window or open the door for you to basically for your customers to be able to transact. So these are things that I get very excited, because I look at it, we welcome, the incumbents should welcome the fintech players. The fintech players should also welcome the incumbents, because when you partner together, that is where you draw synergy and to the delight of the customers, like you and I, that's where, we benefit from the best of both worlds, innovation, the trust, the transparency, the integrity and so on. So, Geetika, just trying to put this into a few words, trying to coin this together. But you're right to say collaboration is the way forward. Geetika,
Thanks.
over to you.
Thanks, Stephen. So, Nishchal, is that the trend you're seeing in Nepal as well? We've seen a lot of these trends, at least in India. I think even in Southeast Asia, we're seeing a lot of those trends where fintech, bank, MTOs are collaborating. Is that the trend you're seeing there as well?
Of course, Geetika, because Nepal also follows. That's what's happening in all around, especially India and China, because our economy is very closely related, especially with India. For example, India, you have I've already said UPI, we have NPI, and as far as India is concerned, we have a sort of a fast payment mechanism. For example, my bank card, I can use it in India freely as like in Nepal. So our fintech companies are collaborating with banks, especially to bring remittance from India and all over the world. and we don't have any specific mobile telecom companies, but we have different kind of players like payment system operators, and they have a wallet services like Paytm in India. So they actively collaborate with banks, and for example, our service providers are collaborating with NPCI in India to bring remittance from India to Nepal, and to send remittance from Nepal to India. So all the players in Nepalese market are following the international trend. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks, Nishchal. Mr. Prasad, one of the things that is being talked about in India is and the world actually is the emergence of CBDCs and cryptocurrencies, right? Do you expect this to have a large impact on the cross-border space as well?
Yeah, Geetika, again, a very pertinent question. CBDC and cryptocurrency is certainly going to have an impact on cross-border payments as well. As you know, these cross-border payments are time-consuming as of now, costly also due to the involvement of several intermediaries. There are often time lags in cross-border fund transfer. The roadmap for CBDC, because to deal with such pain points, the roadmap prepared is like this, that to implement, I think G20 countries have also a vision of this nature, that a future of cross-border payment will be examining the role of CBDC in the process. CBDC can obviously be used for cross-border payments in different ways. For instance, the interoperability between CBDC systems may be examined to reduce existing frictions to facilitate cross-border and cross-currency payments. This such interoperability may be achieved through several ways for different CBDC system and arrangements to interact with one another, because the government, the central banks across the, different geographies will certainly first come out with detailed guidelines on this, because it is in an initial stage as of now. So is the case with cryptocurrency. Let the controversial things that are there as of now, even in India, let that die down. And I'm obviously hopeful that along with this, the use of distributed ledger technology, all those things will bring in such a cohesion between these upcoming things that cross-border payment phase will change forever. That is what I think as of now. And if you permit me taking a cue from what my previous speakers have just said, that besides those things of coming with a number of, information to a bank to undertake a Forex transactions, just the mobile number, nothing more than that. Let everything be pulled in. These fintechs have come to stay, whether we like it or don't like it. As a banker, as an old banker, I'm just making a statement. Since it is not possible to avoid fintech, it is better to coexist with them. Stephen has rightly said that there is synergy between these groups. I was also heading my fintech division till I took over as Chief General Manager Operations in PNB. So we have already undertaken this kind of tie-up arrangements with fintechs, and they are in the process of developing a lot of solutions for us. And in fact, with my experience of now using my mobile, without even visiting my branch or calling up my branch to send remittance to my son, to the same thing I want to replicate with the help of fintechs. So CBDC and cryptocurrency, as you rightly said, that is the way forward. Especially CBDC, I will put more weight on that, because even RBI in India is also thinking in that line. And this UPI, its international version, is going to be a game changer. Already in different geographies, it has had its foothold. And I was part of a project, pilot project with Singapore, UAE, Australia, and also Japan, that we are collaborating with NPCI. And hopefully in the days to come, a lot of developments will take place, including in CBDC and cryptocurrency.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Prasad.
Thank you.
Dharmesh, just building on that topic, we spoke about how DLT and blockchain are have been, areas that have been experimented with, especially for cross-border payments. So do you think, Dharmesh, in terms of crypto, and these are terms that are getting interchangeably used these days, crypto, CBDC, DLT. What do you think is really going to emerge as the winner in this space? And globally, crypto seems to be picking up. Although India has, there are a lot of discussions happening at the policy level in terms of crypto and CBDC. But your perspective in terms of India's way forward on this specific topic, especially for cross border.
See, for cross-border, I think there are experiments on crypto globally. Some of them successful, some of them still to take off. CBDC is somewhere where I think all large countries are thinking of. Uh, and today, if you ask me honestly, nobody knows how it will take a shape, but it will definitely change the way cross-border payments are done, possibly a decade from now. So all this will take another 4 or 5 years to come into play because things have to stabilize at a country level. So CBDCs have to first get launched for some of these large corridors and large countries, which are either large remitting countries or large receiving countries. And then the next play is on the cross-border side. Cryptos, if there are countries which ban cryptos suddenly, and if there are countries which permit cryptos, uh, it will take a while for everybody to take a plunge on that because uh, anybody does not want, and there is a huge amount of investment required to get this projects off ground. And I agree with Mr. Gauri Prasad. I think all this will change the way cross-border payments will be done 5 to 10 years from now. But today, I think what all the players are doing is everybody's trying to experiment with all of these technologies because none of us know what will work in real future. So if you look at banks like us or even any Indian banks, you want to participate in all of this, but do a very closed user group pilots along with the central banks, so that you are testing the waters, you are ensuring the payments are safe, and if things go the way we want, then the next step is to scale it up. So these are smaller experiments, but I am confident things will change. So the cross-border payments 10 years from now will be completely digital using a crypto or possibly a central bank or a central system will decide. But which one will be successful, only time will say.
Right, right, great. Stephen, that's the India perspective in terms of how things may evolve, either the faster payment or side, or on the crypto side, or on the CBDC side. What are you hearing in your part of the world in terms of crypto taking over or CBDC taking over, and especially for cross border payments?
Okay. So, let me touch on CBDC first, all right? CBDC basically, for China is way advanced, all right? In fact, CBDC for China, it has been in the pilot for the past few months, and the major banks in China has been involved in that pilot, and eventually it will be widely accepted, during the Winter Olympics, all right, in China. So so slowly the CBDC basically it will be gaining ground, and eventually it will be used as a cross-border payment. All right. So there is a difference between CBDC and cryptocurrencies, all right, or your stable coins and so on. Number one, CBDC is a legal tender. All right. So when you talk about that, a legal tender means it's basically recognized by the government, is issued by the government, and is guaranteed by the government. Whereas, you're talking about digital currencies, all right, or cryptocurrencies, or, the certain extent stable coins which are issued by the corporations and so on, despite they are not legal tender, all right, except for El Salvador, who recognizes Bitcoin, all right. All the other countries are not recognizing it as a legal tender, all right. But that does not discount the fact that today you and I can basically send Bitcoin, all right, to a Bitcoin address or to a digital exchange cross-border, all right. So it's already happening, all right. We don't have to wait for 5 years or 10 years down the road. It's already happening today, all right. Cryptocurrency, all right, or digital currency, all right, or your stable coins, you can send across border, all right. All you need to do is to be on board an exchange, to be on board on a platform, all right. In fact, today they've gone to a stage where credit card a credit card is not in terms of fiat currency, it's in terms of crypto. So it's already happening. Cross-border payment in terms of cryptocurrency is already happening. It's, you know, and probably you and I, today we may not be using it. You know, my son is using a crypto credit card. You know, it's amazing. The young generations, those in the teens and those in the early 20s, they are already using it as a cross-border payment. Okay, so this is the way forward. Starting now. It's exciting. The future is so exciting. Yeah, Geetika, over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Stephen. Nishchal, just in terms of how your role and how are you looking at all these developments and also balancing, the regulation aspect of it, bringing in new innovations at a speed which can be controlled or at least regulated. What's your view on that?
Yes, Geetika, as a regulator, it is our duty to promote innovation and allow market participants to bring those technologies that work beneficial to a poor country, a developing country like Nepal. Look, there are multiple ways to send cross-border payment. And in the future, I think the new technologies will obviously emerge, like you have already mentioned, maybe a cryptocurrency, or maybe a stable coin, or maybe a central bank digital currency. But the important question is, are those technologies going to help countries like Nepal, poor countries like Nepal, who is heavily reliant on remittance, and all those poor people who are working abroad? Can they send money efficiently and cost effectively to their country? So it is the question that as a regulator we have to ask. As I have already mentioned, there are certain criteria that we judge those technologies. If those technologies fit in that criteria, then obviously we are looking forward to welcome them in Nepal. Thank you.
Thanks, Nishchal. So just, I think we've touched upon a whole lot of points in terms of the customer. We spoke about competition. We spoke about fintechs. We spoke about innovation. We are also doing some, analysis on what the future may look like. But just maybe in terms of how we want to look at concluding the session, just how do we, in the future, Mr. Prasad, how do we look at balancing all these aspects of innovation, regulation, competition, and things like cryptocurrencies and CBDCs, which probably don't fall into any of these categories, but let's call them disruption. But how do you think this space will evolve at the backdrop of all of these things?
Yes, Geetika, again, I must thank you. A very good question here. See, regulations, different governments in different geographies will have their own restrictions, etc. Then, as Dharmesh had mentioned about that anti-money laundering, all those aspects, then customers' delight we were discussing, but at the same time, we must see his, safety and security also in the process of this transfer. And above all these, our friends in the cyber criminals world, they're all waiting in the wings just to intrude the moment they get a loophole. So all these aspects taken together, we need to have a very broad view about the things that are going to come. With my so many years of experience in banking, I have handled situations where a small mistake on one point open the space to these cyber criminals also to hit the bank. So there are many such examples. So in the process of giving better customer experience, the points like regulators' point of view, regulations prevalent in a particular country, the original sender country or the recipient country, those are to be honored. And these fintechs can play a very important role by reducing the cost in this process with the help of their technology, so that the traditional banks, which used to take time as well as it involve higher costs, that will also come down in the days to come, and at the same time will remain compliant, and things will be very transparent, and the customers' trust above all. I think this was also discussed during this deliberation. Customers' trust will remain with this new hybrid system. That is the, collaboration between the fintechs and also the traditional banks. As a banker, I look forward to such a situation where this kind of combination in the days to come, on one hand, will offer transparency and trust to the, people, users, uh, including the restless young lot who want things to happen very quickly. But in the process, we cannot set aside those regulatory guidelines and the intricacies of reconciliation of cross-border payments, the exchange rate mechanism, all those things to be taken into account. And hopefully, as Dharmesh has very rightly said, in 5 years from down the line, probably the other new discussions that are centered around CBDC and cryptocurrency will also take shape, and blockchain will, the distributed ledger technology will also help us in reducing the cost. The landscape, as I can foresee in 5 years from now, I'm just failing to imagine how it can change, because when I see my journey from manual banking to today's banking, so it's unthinkable. Similar kind of changes that we are going to witness in the cross-border payment scenario also, in maybe 5 to 7 years from now.
Thank you, Mr. Gauri Prasad. Stephen, you've brought in aspects of how the millennials are thinking. How do you think that's going to impact this entire cross-border space at the backdrop of everything that we've spoken about right now? What do you think is the most exciting part of the next 5 years?
Well, I would like to look at it. If you look at globalization, all right, whatever it is, the effect of globalization. But two fundamental things, that we are seeing today. Number one is global trades or international trades have been growing, all right, because as countries become more borderless, all right, international trade has been growing, and today, as a bank, we are not seeing the traditional LCs, or the BGs, today, all these are basically settled on blockchain, all right. In fact, China Construction Bank has one of the largest, if not the largest, blockchain trade settlement, all right, today in the world. Okay. Number two, payments. I also look at payments platform today. All right, instant payment. We are looking into blockchain payment. In fact, China Construction Bank has also launched a blockchain payment called EasyPay. So these are the things that a lot of banks are also jumping on the bandwagon. All right, so this is like the future. All right, and the second wave that is coming, that you and I can see today is in terms of cross-border e-commerce. Okay, when I say cross-border e-commerce, is like yes, we have seen a lot of basically purchases that are done online. Not within the same country, but you are sitting in India, but you're buying things from China, you're buying things from US. You have got the Black Friday, you have got the what they call it, the 11/11, the Singles Days, all right, and all this type of what they call it, e-commerce type of jargon, or promotions or campaigns. You find that these are the trends that are coming. So it will continue to drive cross-border payment, continue to drive remittance, and this is the trend. And it's how how do we make sure that when all these things start to happen, all right, what is the most efficient or most effective way of ensuring that the payment, all right, is able to be facilitated, all right? That is number one. Number two is what form of payment, all right? Is it going to be cash, or is it going to be gold, or is it going to be cryptocurrency, digital assets, or one day, it could be NFT, we paying with NFT, it's like, a virtual asset, you are buying a t-shirt, but you're paying with NFT. So, I mean, it's enormous. I tell you, you can basically reimagine payment of the future starting today. Thank you, Geetika.
Thanks, Stephen. Dharmesh, your perspective to conclude in terms of, do you think person-to-person payments or e-commerce payments or business-to-business payments, what's really going to drive the future? And then how are we, I mean, in terms of the technologies itself, we spoke quite a bit about that, but the segments within this space that's going to drive the future.
So Geetika, cross-border payments, and as I said earlier, also will change over the next 5 to 10 years and drastically. What we are seeing today and what we'll see in a decade from now will be completely different. What is important is, and what Nishchal also touched upon, is that are we making an impact to the end user, and are we increasing that pie? So if we are able to take the cross-border payments to people who do not have smartphones, people who do not have bank accounts, people who cannot understand, read, write. Now that is the level of innovation should come in the next 5 10 years, and I think that is the net we have to get in the ecosystem, because payments are getting faster, smarter, simpler, transparent. Uh, but we have to ensure that it reaches to a larger mass and it is able to change the life. And what Stephen also rightly said, can I make now e-commerce cross-border in real time? I still remember I get calls from my sister in UK on a Black Friday saying, "What do you want to buy? There's a Black Friday sale." Now, people who do not have families overseas, they cannot do that, right? You want to buy it right away, and I think that is where innovations have to come. And that I think the payment to payment or the people to people remittances, the next level of progression will be gradual, but I see a significant change in some amount of this businesses, which is cross-border e-commerce, or getting the people who are in unbanked area, or people who do not have smartphones, or to make life simpler for somebody who cannot read, write, and how can he easily remit through a feature phone. I think those are the innovations I would like to see, and that will make an impact to the society.
Sure. Thanks, Dharmesh. Nishchal, your concluding views in terms of, I think Dharmesh touched upon some very important points that you had earlier also spoken about, right? So, from a Nepal perspective, I'm guessing the focus is really on how do you expand the net, right? Especially in a population that does have a lot of migrant population as well. So, in terms of the next 5 years, what kind of innovations that you are focusing on to really bring a larger set of people in the net of this cross border payments segment?
Geetika, thank you very much. But it seems very hard to answer this moment. But I think in next 5 years we may witness a fast from ultra fast payment system, because nobody knows where our technology will take us. But I think in the next 5 years, I think we're going to eliminate all those constraints that's been identified by the CPMI in terms of cross-border payment, all those frictions and all those challenges. And we are going to develop a framework for all those building blocks, 19 building blocks, that will enhance the cross-border payment and integrate a cross-border payment of each and every country in the world. Thank you.
Sure. Thanks to our great panelists. I think we've had a excellent discussion. A lot of new areas to look forward to. Just to conclude, I think some of the key takeaways for me from this session would be transparency is important. Instant is important to a certain segment. It may not be that important to another set of customers today. While we are talking CBDCs and cryptocurrencies, what's equally important is to bring a larger set of people in within the gamut of cross-border payments as we know it today, and we should look to focus on innovations on that front as well, right? So that's what we've discussed today as a whole. Thank you, everyone. Thanks to the audience for joining us, and thanks to the panelists for a great session.